And that's where babies come from. I know, Darkon, you may not have known that, but that is generally where they come from.
Oh yeah, oh man, I did not know that they popped out of holes from the ground.
What the fuck?
I mean, didn't you know? According to Gimli from Lord of the Rings, babies spring out of holes from the ground.
That's ridiculous. Everyone knows they're carried by storks.
Oh yeah, you're right.
I saw the opening of Dumbo. Would Dumbo have lied to me?
Oh right. How could I be such a dumbass? I forgot about that fact.
Yes.
That fact, quote unquote. But anyway, so hello everybody. It is the Dark Conservatarian, and I am here with my co-hosts, Loudmouth Reviews and S-Man Speaks. And here we are going to be talking about the staple topic of my channel, that being abortions, and, well, talking about the obvious, late-term abortions being legalized in specifically New York and attempted in Virginia. I don't think the bill actually passed last I checked. So saying across the country, it's a little bit hyperbolic, but we're going to run with that title.
In the blue state.
So, hello, Lord Pterodax, as he says in the chat. Late-term abortions are literally murder. Even if the baby is delivered and alive, the doctor still kills the baby. Okay, so I got to say, first off, talking about the term abortion being applied to murder. I mean, I have for the longest time thought abortion to be murder, but by definition, the definition of murder typically has a legal definition to it. That's what it most of the time means, is illegal killing. And in the case of abortion, it isn't illegal, so by definition, it wouldn't be murder. But at the same time, there are also philosophical and moral definitions of murder. Like, for example, vegans like to apply a moral definition when it comes to killing and eating animals, for example.
They're a bunch of pussies.
Right. So, anyway, on with the stories. Yes, we are going to be getting onto this gut-wrenching topic, that being late-term abortions. And no, I'm not interested in your gadgets and whatnot. But anyway, so before we begin off, are there any opening comments you two want to make about late-term abortions in New York and Virginia, etc.?
I think them lighting up buildings in New York pink to celebrate it is really fucked up.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
They are painting buildings to celebrate the legalization of late-term abortions.
Correct. Not painting, lighting them.
Oh, yeah.
Lighting them like Christmas lights, except it's not Christmas related?
Correct.
Yeah.
Damn.
For the record, I strongly am pro-choice. I just, in this case, strongly oppose late-term abortions. I think that once a fetus has its sentience and it can survive outside the womb and brainwaves can be detected, I think that after that point, you're an evil son of a bitch. And, you know, for waiting so long to carry out this process, if you must. Fundamentally, I really do not like abortions. I think it's a gruesome process for how they do it. I just have the more it's none of my business attitude. If you're going to have an abortion, if you're going to have one, you don't need to tell me about it. It's none of my business. I just think in this case that, you know, this is a really evil thing to do, and it makes the pro-choice, makes my side of the aisle look like a bunch of retards.
Yep. I mean, Owen definitely did yesterday, but
my basic opinion of it all is I worry about those societal ramifications of a total abortion ban, particularly with overpopulation and unwanted births, and how hugely negative these things are to society. But at the same time, I also find when I see like feminists and leftists doing creepy shit like shouting out your abortion, it gives me it gives me a pit in my stomach. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I mean, I'm speaking of overpopulation, I'm gonna have to like do a Strike Force discussions episode talking about overpopulation. But yeah.
I mean, it is a serious problem, and plus, I feel like the kind of people
it's not.
And really, it's so easy not to get pregnant unexpectedly. All right, I keep hearing, it was just an accident. It could happen to anyone. No, it really can't. Okay, really the easiest thing to avoid imaginable. There's literally thousands of things you can do that will have zero chance of resulting in a baby, and only one thing that will. All right.
Yeah.
And given all the ways, in the modern ways, you can still even have sex without having any risk of a pregnancy, any real risk. The pill, the condoms, this and that. There really is no excuse to have an unwanted pregnancy. If you get pregnant unexpectedly, or if you're a guy who impregnates someone unexpectedly, you're a fucking moron, all right? And you're probably not the kind of person who should be having children.
Yeah, I think what I think Loudmouth is implying there that he wants, and I think what we can all agree upon, is a strong sex education, correct?
Oh yeah.
But
I
honestly,
firmly agree.
I keep hearing from leftists that condoms need, or birth control need to be given more access to, that people are denied access to them. What the fuck world are they living in? All right, condoms are sold at every department store, every gas station, in numerous bathrooms all over the country. Literally, the only way to make condoms more accessible than they are now would be to have them rain from the sky. They are really cheap, all right? Anyone can have easy access to them. And so if you can't afford condoms, all right, you can't afford to fuck, okay? Because they cost like $1 for a couple of them.
Yeah,
They're not expensive.
Yeah. I actually, I was at the mall one time, and a friend of mine took me to Hot Topic, which that was a awful experience. But I could literally buy a couple condoms, a condom for $1. Give me a fucking break. They're not that expensive.
They are not that expensive. So nobody in this country is too poor to afford them. Nobody.
All right.
Yeah.
And so Lord Pterodax says in the chat, I mean, he's basically expounding on what I said earlier about the definition of murder. There are layman's and legal definitions. I use the former, as I do not want to be a coward and say it as it is. Lawyers and doctors hide behind these definitions because they are cowards. Well, let's calm down the rhetoric just a little bit. I'm going to respectful... with all due respect, Lord Pterodax. And Cat Chat joins us, says adoption. Yes, Cat. And Lord Pterodax espouses his own agreement with that and says, yes, that is an option, which I'd endorse. But anyway, all right, so now that we have laid the groundwork of pretty much all of our positions, I mean, I'm pro-life, S-Man is a moderate pro-choicer, and
Loudmouth is a centrist. No,
yeah, you fence-shitting centrist. No, I'm kidding. Scorch88 joins. How you doing, Scorch? Okay. So anyway, this from Town Hall. New York's not alone. Here's a list of states that permit abortion up to birth. Many have been upset recently by New York's new permissive abortion law that allows abortion within 24 weeks from the commencement of pregnancy, or there is an absence of fetal viability, or at any time when necessary to protect a patient's life or health. However, New York's law is not as extreme as the policies in the following 7 states that have no or little restrictions on abortion and allow abortion up until birth, according to the Guttmacher Institute, a pro-abortion research and policy group. I think what they mean is pro-choice, but we aren't going to argue about the semantics on that. And you know, speaking of this subject, I found it quite funny that both Lonely Wolf and even Lapis yesterday in that stream we were hanging out, they define themselves as pro-abortion rather than pro-choice.
I can't really say I'm pro-abortion. I would much rather have people try every realistic way possible to avoid having to do that.
There's also you know what, I think I'm going to pull this up. There's actually a stat that I had found yesterday right before my debate against Owen, talking about abortion statistics. We're just gonna look at it very quickly. We're not gonna read the whole thing. There's just one particular segment that I wanted to show. 1 second. Where is it? All right. So here it is. Scrolling down like halfway, percentage of 2015 reported abortions by weeks of gestation. So most of them, yes, as it is a fact, most of them occur within the early to mid portions. But then there's like 1.3% of abortions that are committed like after 21 weeks or at 21 weeks. Just to lay that bit of groundwork. Hello, Brandon. How are you doing? The states with the most lenient abortion laws are Oregon, Vermont, Colorado, New Hampshire, and the District of Columbia, where there are no major prohibitions on abortion. You see, I do not know the full extent of the laws here in Kansas, to be quite honest, which is kind of ignorant of me. But here in Wichita, we have like one of the biggest abortion clinics, that being like, I think it's called Southwind Women's Center. That was like the place that George Tiller ran before he was killed by the, I would say, anti-abortion extremist, to put it mildly.
Yeah, I think I found a source where it's saying late-term abortions in the United States. Apparently, for some reason, my state is put on the no limit thing, which is bullshit. I know we have 24 weeks, but according to this, the limit is 18 to 20 weeks. So Kansas is slightly a little more strict than Utah on the abortion question. Michigan, it's like around, I think, limit after 20 weeks. So Michigan's a little more lenient than Utah, but that's not saying much.
All right. As evident from Guttmacher's overview, in these states, there are no laws requiring that abortions must be performed by a licensed physician or that they must be performed at a hospital. There are no 24-week or even official viability prohibitions on abortion, which actually there are some stories that I found of where that within 20 to 24 weeks, a baby within that timeline can actually survive at that early of a birth. So that
How early did you say?
in between 20 and 24 weeks.
It is possible, very rare, but possible.
Like how far is that along? Like what, 6+ months?
About 5 months. Well, yeah, 5 to 6 months.
Yeah,
about.
5 to 6 months. Yeah, it's possible, but holy shit, there's a lot of risks that come with really early births. Like I heard of a lady who, she was featured on a true crime show. She was the victim of a crime, and they said she was born that early. She was like partially blind in one eye. Like she was legally blind, basically. And one of her eyes, she had.
Oh yeah, it's not healthy. No one's disputing that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but
because essentially the womb is a life support system, and being taken off any life support system prematurely can have consequences.
Yeah. So yeah. So she lived a rather long life until she was killed, but yeah. Took a lot of energy and a lot of will to continue when you're facing such an uphill battle and you're just a little baby. So yeah, I feel bad for anyone who's born prematurely. I don't know anyone personally who has.
Not all premature births have health problems. Some.
Well, I get that, but there's a much higher risk than if
there is a higher risk. Yes,
I have at least one friend who was like a premature birth, and he ended up growing up to be not a very tall dude.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about somebody that you can just put the palm of your hand on their forehead and that be the end of the fight. This would probably be one of those types of people, man.
I know a chick who's older than me. She's like a little over a year older than me, and yeah, I could put my palm on her forehead and she can't hurt me.
Anyway, Oregon and Vermont fund all or most medically necessary abortions. Oh god. Okay. If I was in either one of those states, I would obviously vote against this, but at the same time, I am for states' rights or state powers, as it probably be more appropriate to put it.
Holy shit, Lord Pterodax is like really
medically necessary abortions, though. That would be like less than 2% of abortions.
Who? What?
Like only 2% of abortions are medically necessary, as in.
Oh. Yeah. Also, Lord Pterodax is really fucking
one example where abortions are completely, and where I wholeheartedly support them, would be a rare condition known as a fallopian tube pregnancy, where the fetus impacts low in the fallopian tubes rather than traveling up to the womb, as most cases. If the fetus is allowed to grow to a certain size, both the baby and the mother will inevitably die. Thus, really, the only ethical thing to do during one of these rare occurrences, it would be to kill the fetus.
Yeah. And by the way, Owen, that is where that we definitely put the rights of the mother over the unborn baby. Okay.
Okay, I
Or fetus
understand.
or whatever.
I
I mean,
understand.
because the baby will die anyway. The baby will no way in this kind of situation survive to term anyway.
Yeah.
What were you about to say, S-Man? You were about to do an Owen impersonation, it sounded like.
I understand, .con. Now, if you could go a bit further and completely side with me, and then what's that term called when you whip yourself? Whip yourself with a belt and apologize for being straight, white, and male. And loudmouth, you can do the same. Although your movie reviews are better than .con's fascism, I will admit. But anyway, all right, it's been around 15 minutes. I do have to go help prepare for Super Bowl Sunday.
Well,
but thanks for having me on. And as always, everybody, Esmond did nothing wrong.
Okay. See you later, S-Man. Heartless Soy Boy is in the chat, says, hello, hi there, Soy Boy, and says, Allah Akbar. I think you meant Allahu Akbar or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. In D.C., Colorado, and New Hampshire, the abortion funding is limited to cases of life endangerment, rape, and incest. Although there have been many efforts to change that in D.C., which were resisted by pro-life Republicans in Congress. See, I will say that when it comes to life of mother, rape, and incest, if I were to like completely have my way, I would like have rape. I mean, definitely rape abortions banned, but it would still be a little bit of a more tolerable compromise to me, considering the fact that they make up less than 1% of abortions. At least last surveyed, anyways.
Right. Well, I find it intellectually disingenuous when abortion advocates will bring up rape and life of the mother automatically, because these things all combined make up less than 5% of abortions. So if we ban them and all except those cases, it would eliminate 95% of them.
Right. Never mind. I found out something related and disturbing, says Cat Chat. All right, I'll probably check out that link sometime later. In Alaska, New Jersey, and New Mexico. Alaska, that's kind of surprising. Abortions are allowed up until birth, and the states fund all or most medically necessary abortions. However, the procedures must be performed by a licensed physician. New Jersey has the additional requirement that abortions must be performed in a hospital past 14 weeks. All right. I say that it's surprising in Alaska, but I guess it ain't too surprising considering the fact that my observation of Alaska is that they have some of the more moderate Republican base as compared to a whole lot of other red states.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right. I know. Okay, Catchat says, I know he screams like a goat, but Graham is really good. Oh, you're talking about Lindsey Graham? Or are you talking about a different Graham, Catchat? I mean, I know you're from Australia, so I do not know if there's like somebody named Graham in Australia who who you might be referring to as opposed to Lindsey Graham. Anyway. Meanwhile, in New Jersey, lawmakers recently introduced a bill to prevent the slaughter of pregnant cows. Oh, okay. I mean, actually, I can agree with that because you're basically...
I'm against slaughtering pregnant cows, so...
Yeah.
I actually support a lot of regulations. This is where I'm not very libertarian, I guess, on the meat industry to facilitate a better life for their animals.
Better life for
I'm willing
animals.
to do this even if it leads to higher cost of animal products.
Better life of animals, but also you just killed 2 cows there. 2 potential sources of food in the slaughtering of a pregnant cow. Is the way that I look at it.
Veal as well. I think veal is incredibly immoral.
Along with caviar?
No, just veal.
Well, veal I know is like baby cow, but also caviar is like unhatched fish eggs.
Yeah, but honestly, I less give a shit about fish than a fellow mammal.
Okay, I guess it's understandable, but either way, killing a baby cow or scooping up a bunch of unhatched fish eggs for the eating, either way is like inefficient for the food industry, I say. I mean, you're basically killing an animal for a luxury food, as opposed if you could like let those animals grow to full age and grow full bodied, and then you kill them for a higher amount of meat and ultimately food.
Correct. So, for being veal, I also would support a regulation with pigs that that can't be taken away from their mothers before they're of weaning age. Some are taken away from their mothers and are hand fed, all right, at that age, hand milked, and a lot of them have clear psychological problems. They showed this, where they took a piglet that was weaned at a proper age and a piglet that was taken away too young, and the piglet who was taken away too young had signs of increased anxiety and mental illness. So therefore, I look at that study and I'm like, yeah, it seems very unethical to take away piglets that are that young.
The world is going to absolute shit, says Brandon. Amen, Brandon.
Yep.
And no, so I'm not saying amen to Satan, by the way.
Right. But so even though I'm not a vegan, I do support various regulations that would make things easier for animals that are grown for food. I'm not against animals being eaten, but I do support certain regulations.
No, I gotcha.
Yeah.
In addition to the lenient abortion laws in these 7 states and DC, Guttmacher shows that 19 states make a broad exception that allows late-term abortions for the health of the mother, meaning both physical and mental health. Well, mental health is kind of an ambiguous territory right there. Like, what do you mean by mental health? As in something like, I don't know, PTSD related or something like that?
Yeah, that seems obnoxiously nebulous.
Yeah, I mean, PTSD, I mean, it sucks for the mother, obviously, but I don't consider that to be ultimately worth, like, saying that the life of the unborn baby is completely invalidated. Okay. That list now includes 20 states given New York's updated law. Okay. So it seems like New York is not among one of the 7 states, is not joining the other 7 states and just completely outright allowing late-term abortions, full stop. It's just more of accepting late-term abortions for the health of the mother, meaning both physical and mental health. And also, when it comes to like something like physical health as well, like, what are you talking about? Like gaining weight or something like that? I'm sorry. I mean, this might be a little bit crass of me, but gaining weight is a little bit more of a first world issue and can be like worked off at the gym.
Oh yeah. Things that you should never say to a pregnant woman. Oh, honey, I finished the Oreos.
Heartless Soy Boy says, if Owen is a Muslim, why does he support abortion?
Wait, I don't think a Muslim.
No. I don't think Owen is a Muslim.
I thought he was an atheist.
I don't think he's an atheist, or at least doesn't call himself one. I think he claims himself to be an agnostic. He cares very little about the issue.
He seemed to be an atheist.
Well,
because I was trashing religion, both Christianity and Islam, he didn't seem to object to it much.
Oh, you talking about the live stream that you were on with him?
Yeah, he did not seem like he seemed a-religious.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I thought I heard him say that he's agnostic more than well, okay, that's getting into semantic territory, but he's just non-religious in general. And he also doesn't seem to care that much about the topic of religion in general as well. Thus is why that I did not think that, yes, bringing up my religion, for example, was that appropriate for yesterday's debate, which I do plan to mirror on my channel, everybody, if you are wanting to watch it. Cat Chat says, tries not to comment. Tries not to comment about what, Cat Chat? Or you don't have to say. You don't have to say if you really don't want to, Cat.
Oh, a new BuzzFeed poll. If you were a fart, what kind of fart would you be? Gee, I can't imagine why all these brilliant journalists at BuzzFeed were laid off.
Business news.
Clearly that is an important thing for society. What would society do? All right. How would society even function without polls and questions like that?
Yeah, I mean, I might as well have just gone ahead and read that article that Aspie suggested about the one Buddhist monk who participated in an orgy.
Aspie finds the funniest shit.
Aspie, you're such a jackass.
He finds the funniest shit. That's why I love about him.
But we love you nonetheless, Aspie.
Seriously, his streams, I never, I don't think I laugh much more often than I do on his streams.
Right. He needs to like host another one sometime. Although the last one that he done was pretty inactive. Like the only people he had on was Aircraft Sparky for the most part, and someone else. I can't remember who the other person was.
Yeah, I must have missed that one.
It was one of his more boring streams, in all blunt honesty.
Yeah, if he gets the right people on there, they're funny though.
Yeah. White YouTuber come back. Anyway.
Yeah, I haven't seen him and I haven't heard from him in a fucking year, man.
He deleted his channel. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I knew that. I think he just disappeared from the face of the earth, man.
Yeah, I kind of wish that I downloaded his one video response to Chrisiosity when it comes to trans people and mirrored it on my channel, because that was a very good video on his parts.
Was it?
Yeah. I mean, he like broke down the data in response to Chrisiosity on how much, how proportional it is to trans people that trans people commit suicide.
Yeah, I heard that they do have higher suicide rates. They're a very small percentage of the population, so. Yeah.
All right.
It's like one out of every 300 people.
Getting off of LGBT issues, though, and getting back onto abortion.
Okay.
One thing to note is that while late-term abortion up to birth is legal in 7 states and D.C., it is incredibly rare, and there are only a handful of doctors willing to perform these abortions, which certainly limits access. Okay, well, that's good news, but I still don't think it should be sanctioned. Or I still do not think it should be legalized. The state's varying laws on abortion is unsurprising, given that the Supreme Court provided a very broad viability rule in their 1973 Roe v. Wade decision, which they reaffirmed in their 1992 Planned Parenthood v. Casey decision. Excuse me. In Casey, the court wrote that the government may not prohibit any woman from making the ultimate decision to excuse me. May not prohibit any woman from making the ultimate decision to terminate her pregnancy before viability, and reaffirmed that Roe, that subsequent to viability, the state, in promoting its interest in the potentiality of human life, may, if it chooses, regulate and even prescribe abortion except where it is necessary, in appropriate medical judgment for the preservation of the life or health of the mother. The Roe v. Wade decision defined viable as potentially able to live outside the mother's womb, albeit with artificial aid, adding that viability is usually placed at about 7 months, 28 weeks, but may occur earlier, even at 24 weeks, or even 22 weeks, I think is the most early that went, that I heard it go. I'm going to finish off this article, then I'm going to address you guys' comments in the chat. However, the broadness of the court's definition of the term viability leaves much room for interpretation, resulting in the very different state laws on abortion. The court has even acknowledged that reality, writing in their 1979 Colati v. Franklin decision, that different physicians equate viability with different probabilities of survival, and some physicians refuse to equate viability with any numerical probability at all. Many have pointed out that with improvements in technology, premature babies have survived birth as early as 21 weeks. Okay. Recent studies have supported revisiting when fetal viability begins, given the earlier survival rates. End of article. And I do have to say that viability, that's kind of, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of ambiguous, I would say myself, because a person is not truly. I mean, you want to talk about survivability. That viability is based off of whether or not a person can survive without XYZ. And a person would need help from someone else, that being their parents, all the way up until like they're at least 18. Well, legally speaking, anyways. So what? I don't think reliance on other people to survive is necessarily a good metric to determine somebody's right to life, is my thing. But it does help. I'll still say. Heartless Soy Boy says it was a mistake that Owen wasn't aborted. Oof. Yeah, that was pretty heartless. The comment was a response to Soy Boy. Oh, I see. Harsh Soy, she says. Lord Pterodax also says SJWism has revived God of the Old Testament, but now he is to be feared, hated, and despised, and unworthy of worship, and all he represents are to be shunned. Okay, Pterodax, I don't think it is necessarily SJWs that are against God and Christianity in of themselves.
Yeah, I'm an atheist and I'm not no social justice warrior.
Yeah, take Loudmouth for example. Cat Chat also says, Lord Pterodax, what? I don't understand what you're saying. That's my thoughts exactly as well, Cat. I mean, Pterodax, with all due respect, you might want to like rephrase your last chat comment there. Anyway, to be quite honest, abort all communists, says Soy Boy. Soy Boy, that's like getting into borderline Pinochet type territory there. Okay, so moving on to the next article. 1 second, I'm going to see what my Twitter is looking like. Okay. Nothing new. Scorch88 asks, have you seen the comments on Owen's video that I left? Yes, I have, Scorch, and I liked every single one of them. All right, so moving on with the next story, talking about Virginia's late-term abortion bill. CBSNews.com, Virginia governor under fire for comments on late-term abortion bill. Okay, so it's not technically about the abortion bill itself, but it's talking more specifically about Ralph Northam. So here we go. A new bill proposed in the Virginia legislature would loosen restrictions on abortions during the third trimester of pregnancy and allow abortions during the second trimester to take place outside hospitals. Virginia's governor, Democrat Ralph Northam, stirred controversy on Wednesday when he suggested how such a late-term procedure could occur. Under current Virginia law, abortions during the third trimester require a determination by a doctor and 2 consulting physicians that continuing the pregnancy would likely result in the woman's death or substantially and irremediably impair her mental or physical health. The bill, proposed in the Virginia House of Delegates by Democrat Kathy Tran, I wonder, is she like related to Kelly Marie Tran? No, I'm joking. Kathy Tran would require only one doctor to make the determination that the pregnancy threatens the woman's life or health. The proposed legislation would also eliminate the requirement that abortions during the second trimester would be performed in a state-licensed hospital. Didn't Kathy Tran also say in that one soundbite that an abortion surgeon could go so far to like abort the baby while it's being given birth or something? I mean, have you seen that video clip be making the rounds across the internet, Loudmouth?
The one with the governor of Virginia?
Not the governor of Virginia, but when Kathy Tran, the Virginia House of Delegates person who was describing her bill on late-term abortions to like a Republican Virginia House rep.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah, you remember? You know what clip I'm talking about?
No.
Oh. Okay, maybe I'll like send it to you or something because I know that it was shared in another chat group, Twitter chat group that you're not in, but I am. Heartless Soy Boy asks a question: is Loudmouth pro-choice or pro-life? He's kind of jaded on his positions. I mean, legally speaking, he's a moderate pro-choicer, but philosophically speaking, a passionate pro-lifer. So he can like see both sides of the argument. If I'm
I suppose I just kind of find the left a lot worse on the issue, just because they do really sick shit like shout your abortion and all this other stuff and bragging about it. I'm like, it really grosses me out.
Yep. All right. Republicans narrowly control the House of Delegates, so the bill is unlikely to pass anytime soon. A subcommittee voted to table the bill in a 5-3 vote Monday. Proponents of the Virginia legislation argue the bill, which is similar to a law recently passed in New York, is needed to protect women's health. Yeah. Give me specifics on how that is. But opponents argue late-term abortions are rarely medically necessary. Yes, I agree. And the Virginia bill has provoked a swift backlash from conservatives. Yes. Bet. What?
I'll bet.
Cat Chat says in the chat, hashtag shout your disgust. I will, chat. Or cat. But that response was compounded by comments Northam made on WTOP radio Wednesday when asked about the bill. All right. So this is comments from Northam. When we talk about third trimester abortions, these are done with the consent of obviously the mother, with the consent of the physicians, more than one physician, by the way. And it's done in cases where there may be severe deformities. There may be a fetus that's non-viable. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So I think this is really blown out of proportion. Okay, I actually listened to the Matt Walsh show on this, of how he was making a comment about the whole comment of, and then there would be a discussion, of how he's basically setting himself for the possibility of being misrepresented in his beliefs. But I personally think that when he says, and there would be a discussion, that there's kind of an implication there that he's referring to there can be a discussion on whether or not the baby can be killed or not. I mean, what other discussion could he be referring to there? Discussion on what name to give the baby, discussion on how the Super Bowl is going and whatnot. Heartless Soy Boy says, my 2 cents delayed the stream today. Okay, yeah, it makes sense. Anyway, that prompted swift backlash from Republicans and conservatives, rightly so, I say. In an interview with the Daily Caller, President Trump said that Northam's comments were terrible. This is going to lift up the whole pro-life movement like maybe it's never been lifted up before. The pro-life movement is very much a 50-50. It's a very 50-50 issue. Actually, it's gained a point or two over the years, Mr. Trump said. What do you mean the pro-life movement? Are you talking about the issue of abortion is 50-50 across the country? I mean, that would make more sense if you're like referring to the approval of abortion. This is horrific, Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel tweeted. Democrat Governor Ralph Northam, a pediatrician himself, is defending born alive abortions. Born alive abortions. What are you talking about? Like, are you talking about postnatal abortions? No, fuck that shit. That's just straight up murder right there.
Oh, yeah.
The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. This is simply pure evil, conservative commentator Ben Shapiro tweeted. Yes. Ophira Yeskull, Northam's communications director, issued a statement looking to clarify the governor's comments. Okay. And I do have to say, talking about Ben Shapiro for a moment, because I saw the Progressive Voice actually do a response. Oh, I just noticed that Loudmouth left. Okay. Cat Chat Okay, never mind. Because I actually saw a video from the Progressive Voice making a response video to Ben Shapiro on abortion. And Ben Shapiro is getting pretty passionate and fiery about that one pregnant lady who is like advocating for the election of Hillary Clinton to the presidency because of the issue of abortion or reproductive rights, as she was framing it. Excuse me. And through Ben Shapiro's passion, he was talking more specifically about late-term abortions, as he was pointing out the cases of Kermit Gosnell, more specifically, of how his abortions were just straight up immoral. And Progressive Voice was assuming Ben Shapiro to supposedly be projecting that to be supported by the entirety of the left here in America and of Democrats. Well, for one thing, Ben Shapiro did not outright say that all Democrats generally support late-term abortions. But even if that was the case, and Progressive Voice was calling that a straw man, well, fast forward about a year or two, you have shit like this going on, of where you have Ralph Northam, Democrats in Virginia, and New York successfully passing through the idea of late-term abortions being allowed. So it isn't that much of a straw man. I mean, it would be hyperbolic to imply that the entirety of the Democrats support late-term abortions or allowing late-term abortions more specifically. But considering that you have the recent news going on, it ain't that much of a straw man, in all honesty. Hey, what's the link about? The governor's interview. Hey, that's what the link was about, the governor's interview. Ah, I see. Sheesh, I spell like a monkey with rabies, says Kat. All right, 1 second. So continuing on, Republicans in Virginia and across the country are trying to play politics with women's health. And that is exactly why these decisions belong between a woman and her physician, not legislators, most of whom are men. The statement reads, "No woman seeks a third trimester abortion." Bullshit. Except in the case of tragic or difficult circumstances, such as a non-viable pregnancy or in the event of severe fetal abnormalities, or maybe even the case of, I don't know, life circumstances, just general life circumstances. And the governor's comments were limited to the actions physicians would take in the event that a woman in those circumstances went into labor. Yeskel added, attempts to extrapolate these comments otherwise is in bad faith and underscores exactly why the governor believes physicians and women, not legislators, should make these difficult and deeply personal medical decisions. Well, screw you. I'm still going to comment on the immorality of this issue. I do not care what you or Owen Cunt Donald or anyone else has to say about how I or my pro-life compatriots should just shut the fuck up about the issue. I'm not shutting the fuck up, all right? Northam himself later commented on the outcry, tweeting late Wednesday, "I have devoted my life to caring for children, and any insinuation otherwise is shameful and disgusting." I devoted my life to caring for children, and any insinuation otherwise is shameful and disgusting. Well, your comments are shameful and disgusting when it comes to children and the issue of abortion, Ralph. Virginia law currently prohibits third trimester abortions, except in the extreme circumstances in which a woman's life or health is at risk, and that risk is certified by 3 physicians. Okay, well, what exactly do you mean by the health of the mother? Are you talking about like physical health as in gaining weight? If that's the case, I mean, specifically talking about the weight of the mother. That's complete and utter bullshit. And the case when it comes to like, what else am I talking about? When it comes to like mental health, if like say the woman was going to get PTSD, yeah, I will say that that is terrible, but that is not exactly the fault of the unborn fetus. A majority of Americans, 60%, believe abortion should be legal in the first 3 months of pregnancy. 3 months. 3 months. That's 12 weeks. I mean, I would at least like to see the national cap on abortion be pushed up to that early, or be pushed down that early, just for any circumstances except for life of mother. But that's still not as early as I would like to see it, ideally. But that number plummets to just 13% for abortions during the third trimester, according to a Gallup poll from May 2018. Yeah, so there is still a portion of the population that supports allowing late-term abortions. I mean, they're rare and few and far between, but still. Cat Chat says they make it too vague. It makes too big a loophole. Yes, exactly, Cat. Still disgusting. Okay, Scorch meant to say disgusting, not discussing. But yeah, it's still disgusting, and we are still discussing. So, at a recent committee hearing, Republican State Delegate Todd Gilbert asked Tran to clarify exactly how late in a pregnancy doctors would be able to perform abortions. Gilbert asked if a woman who was about to give birth could request an abortion under Tran's proposed bill. She has physical signs that she is about to give birth. Would that be a point at which she could still request an abortion if she's so certified? She's dilating, Gilbert said. Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman would make at that point, Tran responded. I understand that. I'm asking. Okay. I understand that. I'm asking if your bill allows that. My bill would allow that, yes. Okay. So yeah, there is the statement right there from Tran, the author of the bill herself, saying that yes. During birth, you can even get your abortion. That is, yeah, quite disgusting. You are seconds away from a successful birth, and still you're going to allow that unborn person, that you're going to allow that innocent person to get killed still. That's the end of that article. Yeah. Of course it is. Any harm to a child is, says Kat. Yep. All right. So still on the issue of abortion, but getting off of the issue of late-term abortions being legalized across the country, we are going to be talking about how much women are less likely to support abortion rights than men, which is quite odd because, I mean, actually, I've heard this stat before, but I thought that I would read an article talking about this stat to actually support my observation on that women are more likely to be pro-life than men. All right. This from The Hill, Democratic pollster. Women are less likely to support abortion rights than men. Democratic pollster Celinda Lake said on Friday that women are more likely to oppose abortion rights than men. And I will say that I do have a lot of female pro-lifers within my fan base. Sailor Mercury, Cat Chat, and there's a new subscriber that I recently got. I cannot remember her name, who is a female and is pro-life on this issue. And I think Faith Carehood. I mean, I'm not doxing her, by the way. She revealed her own name on Twitter. I think Faith is subscribed to my channel as well, and she's pretty much pro-life as well. She's more pro-life than her boyfriend even. Okay. My wife, says Scorch. Okay, yeah. Well, last I checked though, Scorch, your wife is not like subscribed to my channel though, but yeah, that is still an example of a female pro-lifer. And you yourself also proclaim to be pro-life as well, Scorch. I'm on my way home, so I can't type. All right. And Cat Chat says, I'm going to go take a shower now. See you later, Cat. Unless you're going to be listening to this podcast while showering, which By the way, unlike Rin Michaelis, I am not going to make a big fuss over that. Women are much less likely to be pro-choice. Lake, who is the president of Lake Research, told Hill TV's Joe Concha on What America is Thinking. Women are more religious than men. Interesting. And so women are slightly less pro-choice than men, she continued. You know, I don't really so much like it of, Scorch. I think Scorch is commenting on how I said that I don't think that his wife is subscribed to my channel. He says, you don't know. Yeah, I honestly do not fully know. But anyway, what I was about to say, I don't really like it so much of when that the issue of religion gets tied into the issue of abortion. I mean, yes, a lot of pro-lifers have a lot of religious motivation in the issue, but people like me and Julie Borowski, who's also a libertarian pro-lifer, did not go thinking, let me check my Bible to see what the verses of the Bible say about abortion. See if it explicitly is a sin or not. No, we just connect the dots that the Bible, well, okay, not even looking at it from a biblical sense. Believing just purely in the secular right to life. And then you connect the dots that, hey, babies are people and unborn fetuses are basically just unborn, well, babies. And so I don't think that they should be killed. But yet they are allowed to be killed under current abortion laws. So why is there this inconsistency? It's disheartening, and so on and so forth. But yeah, there was no religious motivation on my part when I was first introduced to abortion. As anyone paying attention to what I have to give about the testimony, what I have to give on my stances, knows. Anybody who actually pays attention to me explaining my stances knows. All right. Various studies have shown that there is not a significant difference between men and women's views on abortion. Yeah, I did not think that it was going to be a large difference between men and women, between those two groups, and whether or not how many of both groups support or are against abortion. Gallup found in a May 2018 poll that 26% of men said they favored access to legal abortion under all circumstances, while 31% of women said they agreed. Okay? So it seems that women are more passionate in the issue when it comes to like both stances. And there's like very few women who are like in the middle of the road, is what I'm getting so far. The same survey found that 19% of both men and women said abortion should be completely illegal. Yeah, and I personally don't say that abortion should be completely illegal. Like, I would prefer personally that if nobody had abortions at all, but I cannot really see the legal case being made for making illegal abortions before 7 weeks. And of course, I am for the life of mother exception when it comes to abortion. So I don't think that abortion should be completely illegal, but I think it should be mostly illegal. So I would not be part of that 19% of men. A 2016 study done by the Marist poll found that people who describe themselves as practicing a religion were more likely to self-identify as pro-life than pro-choice by a 58% to 37% margin. The poll also found that 30% of religiously observant respondents who called themselves pro-choice said they would sometimes think of themselves as pro-life. I like to think of myself as both pro-choice and pro-life. I mean, this is getting more into semantics territory, but I like to think of myself as pro-life in that I do not want people to be allowed to kill one another. I mean, unless you have the case of where somebody is trying to kill you, well, then if you were to kill the person trying to kill you, well, then I don't really care about that. But I don't think people's right to life should be invaded upon, is what I mean by right to life. Hey, Red Feather, how are you doing? And speaking of pro-life libertarian females in my fan base, Red Feather is another one of them, by the way, people. And I also like to think of myself as pro-choice as well. I mean, I'm not pro-choice by the official definition when it comes to like a position on abortion, but I like to think of myself as pro-choice in that I am pro-business choice, that people can like choose what they want to do with their business, that people can choose to take drugs if they want to. People can be allowed to choose to own a gun if they want to. And people can, and I'm even pro-choice in the case of the unborn baby. Like, I would be of the default position that most, if not all, unborn babies, if they were like aware of the circumstances, would not choose to be aborted, would not choose to be killed inside the womb or whatever else. I mean, obviously, they are not smart enough to comprehend the circumstance, but still, the default position, I think, is that they would choose not to be killed. And come later in life, if they ultimately choose that they do not want to live, if they want to commit suicide, well, I believe in that right as well. Red Feathers asks, how am I? I am doing pretty good, Red Feather. Just early Sunday evening talking about the news. Lake's comments come as President Trump prepares to announce his pick to replace swing vote Justice Anthony Kennedy on the Supreme Court. Okay, so this is a bit of an old article, but it's still quite relevant. Kennedy's departure has given Trump the opportunity to appoint a conservative to the court, sparking fears among liberals about the future of rulings such as Roe v. Wade, which legalized abortion. End of article. Yeah, and for who that Trump picked for the Supreme Court, that being Brett Kavanaugh, I do not approve of Brett Kavanaugh primarily in the area that he is like for NSA spying, to put it in simple terms. But when it comes to the issue of abortion, I'm not the most giddy about his positions on abortions either, because the guy seems to be just neutral. He seems to be accepting of Roe v. Wade, from what I've generally read of him and his positions. 1 second. Take a sip of water. All right. So, moving on from the issue of abortion to the issue of police. Now, the reason why I'm reading this article specifically is because, excuse me. Main reason why I'm reading this is because the issue of police and their duties got brought up to me in my internet YouTuber circles recently in the recent week. All right. So Brandon Paget says, I'm going to host the Lonely Bastard stream on Valentine's Day. All right. I don't know if I'll join that. Interested in joining? When are you going to be hosting the Valentine's Day stream, Brandon? On Valentine's Day? I don't remember of when Valentine's Day is. I mean, I guess the biggest reason why I do not know what day Valentine's Day is because I never had a Valentine, and I don't have a girlfriend or anything like that. But yeah, sure. If you were to shoot me a link on Valentine's Day, I probably would try to make this. I would try to make an effort to join, at least for a little bit. All right. So this from the Washington Post. Now, I do not exactly trust the Washington Post with the utmost credibility. Valentine's Day is on the 14th, says Brandon. Okay, I'll take it into consideration, Brandon. But anyway, as I was saying, I do not utterly trust the Washington Post, but we are going to read the story with a grain of salt. And by the way, I've already read this article once, but I thought I'd read it to you guys. How police officers protected Black Lives Matter protesters during Dallas shooting. Actually, the main reason as to how I mainly came across this article is because apparently Cult of Ham was saying that police do not do their job, of protecting people primarily. And so I thought, I bet I can find a story of police essentially doing their job. And just by going off of the title of this particular article right here, it seems that they are doing their job. Red Feather asks, oh, did you see the shooting in Eugene, Oregon? No, I did not, Red. Brandon says, it's okay. Same with me, buddy. I stopped dating, so always going to host the stream. So I'm going to I'll host the stream. All right. Some do, some don't, says Scorch. Yeah, I agree, Scorch. I mean, I don't want to like paint with a broad brush that all cops are good, but at the same time, I hate it when people paint with a broad brush that all cops are bad. So that's the main reason as to why that I am reading this article. When Sheree Santora and her 2 children first arrived in downtown Dallas on Thursday to join the Black Lives Matter protest, she said the interaction between marchers and officers was peaceful, loving. Officers lined the streets as a massive crowd marched past. They gave us high fives, hugs, were taking selfies, Santora 37 told the Post. It was such an instance of love and understanding that I'm here for you. You could feel it. There was no animosity in the air. That was the feeling throughout. Okay, that's a bit of a jaded statement right there, but all right. But I get the message generally, Mrs. Santora. There was positivity in the moment right there. Shortly after 9 p.m. near El Centro College, participants turned around to peacefully march back. Then shots rang out. Pause. A second burst of gunfire round. Santora said a man dressed in white bearing a cross was yelling at marchers to clear the streets. Yeah, by the description there, it sounds like a KKK member. As we were taking cover, you see the Dallas PD and the DART officers turning toward what is active fires, Santora said. All right. So this is when they start charging in to try to stop the shooter. The police are anyways. Chaos erupted, and Santora ran with her 17-year-old daughter and 14-year-old son. Half of the crowd ran off to the left. The other ran to the right. You see police officers rushing people off the street, people who froze, telling people to get to the buildings to seek cover. Yeah, good on the police right there. In the mayhem, some people fell down, but fellow marchers also helped. They didn't get trampled, Santora said. People were picking them up as they fell and carrying them. Images and videos show officers pulling fallen comrades out of harm's way, of officers running toward gunfire from an elevated position with no chance to protect themselves and to put themselves in harm's way to make sure citizens can get to a place of security, Dallas Police Chief David Brown said Friday. All right. What's that say right there? No justice, no peace? Okay, I see. So I think what you have essentially here is a Black Lives Matter supporter and 2 police officers, if I am looking at this correctly. Anyways, 4 Dallas police officers and 1 Dallas area rapid transit DART officer were killed. 7 others were wounded. All that to protect a bunch of BLM supporters. Now, I gotta say that the generalization of saying that BLM supporters want cops to die is probably a rather hyperbolic and inaccurate generalization. I mean, you see the clips making the rounds that BLM, pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon, and what do we want? Dead cops. When do we want them now? And then there's also the one story about the Dallas police shooting where I can't remember what the name of the shooter was, but it's probably for the best I don't remember him. But it was like, what, a dozen police officers were killed? And then right afterward, I mean, I don't trust Mark Dice, but he was like reading a whole bunch of tweets. I don't fully trust Mark Dice, but I trust the screen caps that he was taking of where a whole bunch of BLM supporters were like praising the death of the cops, which that kind of shows a very nasty attitude towards the cops, even so much to be praising or even calling for death of cops. But obviously not all BLM supporters are supportive of, the death of cops. What was I also going to say? But considering the fact that BLM is like really critical of the police, it's a little bit ironic that the police would be helping the people that are critical of them. But at the same time, it's pretty heartening, actually, that despite BLM being critical of they themselves, the police still help them and stop them from being shot at by this random KKK shooter. Or at least I presume KKK shooter. Santora said marches noted these people who came out to protect us were going to be out there for them. She plans to take her children to memorials for the fallen officers, for the same reason she has taken her children to Black Lives Matter demonstrations. You're either part of the solution or you're part of the problem. Even if you don't know what to do, you can do something, even if it's showing love. And you know, I gotta say that my view of BLM has kind of changed a little bit. It's become a little bit more jaded. Like, I used to have been outright harsh and against BLM. But they do have a little bit excuse me. They do have a bit of a point that the police definitely do need some reformation. Although a couple of the things that I disagree with BLM about, just outright disagree with, is the idea of reparations for people that have not been victims of slavery or anything like that, from people who have not been slave owners or anything like that through their tax dollars. And the other thing that I disagree with BLM on is nationalizing the police force. Like, that I outright disagree with. I mean, abolishing the public police force, that is understandable, I say, especially when the police take 15 minutes to respond, to actually save somebody from a shooting when they call them. That makes it highly understandable why somebody would say abolish the public police. But I definitely disagree with the idea of nationalizing the police. Make them centrally controlled? No, screw that. That's just a whole nother can of worms and a dangerous situation, I say. Murder is murder. They were protecting us, and it's horrible they lost their lives, she said. It happened. We have to continue the conversation. In addition to the dozen officers who were shot, at least 2 other people were injured by gunfire, according to authorities. One of those injured rally goers is Shatamia Taylor, who was shot in the right calf while protecting her sons, the Associated Press reported. Taylor was there with her 4 sons, who range in age from 12 to 17. Her sister Teresa Williams told the Wire service. Excuse me. When the gunfire rang out, Taylor shielded her boys, throwing herself in front of them so they could run to safety. Williams told news station WFAA. At least one of those bullets hit Taylor's right calf as she covered one of her sons, 15, on the ground. She jumped on top to cover him on the ground as she pushed him in between 2 cars in the curb, Williams told WFAA. All she could think about was her other 3 boys. Where are they at? She was in surgery for her injuries Friday morning, the AP reported. Another rally goer said an unidentified Dallas officer saved his life. Lynn Mays, 46, attended the Black Lives Matter protest Thursday night to take photographs, he told the Huffington Post. All of a sudden, we started hearing gunshots, just out of nowhere, Mays told the Dallas Morning News. At first, we couldn't identify it because we wasn't expecting it. Then we started hearing more rapid fire. He told the newspaper, one police officer that was standing there pushed me out of the way because the shooting was coming our direction. Cuts, still bloody, on May's legs show where he fell when he was pushed out of harm's way. I'm going to get to you guys' chat comments here in a bit once I finish this article because I'm meandering about getting to it and we're almost done. When the officer pushed me out of the way, next thing you know, we heard officer down, Mays told the newspaper. More officers started running around the corner and the shootout began, Mays said. Police officers started shooting in one direction and whoever was shooting back. And that's when the war began. War? Okay, defining this as a war is a little bit hyperbolic. This is more like a shooting or a battle more than it would be a war. I mean, if you want to call it a war, the war between police officers and, well, criminals would obviously be long before this instance right here. Lynn Mays was at the scene when the shooting started. He said an officer saved his life. This is supposed to be a Twitter picture, but I guess the Twitter post got taken down ever since. On Friday, Mays told the Huffington Post that Thursday night was the most terrifying feeling I've ever had in my life. If I can find out who that police officer is, I would tell him thank you from the bottom of my heart, Mace told the outlet. During the panic, rally attendees also tried to get others to safety. One march organizer, Dwayne Whitfield, described the moment the marchers heard the gunfire. WFAA reported, "What we tried to do is get the women and the children back there in the protest away from the gunfire," Whitfield told the station. "They were running toward it, and we had to get them back in the traffic. We had to back the traffic." Whitfield added, "Everyone was so terrified. The faces of those people were terrified." This post has been updated, and that is the end of the article. And I shall get to you guys' chat posts here momentarily. All right. So we'll get to this story here in a bit. No, pause. Okay. All right. So in the chat, we have a couple from Scorch and one from Brandon. Brandon describes the fight as a death match, and I think that would be a whole lot more accurate than calling it a war, Brandon. So thank you for that comment. Scorch88 says, the issue with the cops and BLM is a mixed bag where both are right and wrong with some subjects. I agree with that, Scorch. It's a whole lot more jaded than either side wants to make it out to be. I mean, I don't like to think of myself as an utmost Republican, bootlicking, establishmentarian, fundamentalist Republican who thinks that, Republican supporter, I mean, who thinks that absolutely all cops are good or justified or whatever else. I mean, I've had my criticisms of Officer Yanez and of Sheriff Israel, obviously. And you know what? Honestly, I think the story of Sheriff Israel just allowing the Marjorie Douglas shooting to happen really is a wake-up call to, I would say, conservatives who, of how dirty the police can be. Scorch88 says, most of the issue about cops is the crappy laws. Yes, thank you, Scorch. I put more blame on the lawmakers and the laws themselves than the cops, really. I mean, it would be best if, like, the cops were to, like, quit their jobs if they were being, let's say, you know, ordered to confiscate drugs, for example. I mean, I do not, if I was to, like, be ordered to consistently do something like that, seize people and their property for a marijuana possession, if I was ordered to consistently do that, I'd probably quit my job as a police officer if I was a cop. All right. So 1 second, I'm going to see what all is going down on Twitter. And for that matter, oh, I see. I see. I was just checking. I was just checking Discord there as well. Agreed. That's why I quit the military, says Scorch. Yeah. Oh, come on. Bring up Hangouts. Thank you. All right. So this will be the last story of the day. And I thought this would be kind of a libertarian uplifting for everybody. The idea of Trump officially legalizing industrial hemp. But I did not know the full details of this story right here. So I thought, well, let's just check it out. And this is a fairly recent article. It was just December of last year, December 20th of last year. So it's not like it's that old of a story. All right. President Trump legalized the cultivation of industrial hemp Thursday when he signed a widespread bipartisan farm bill aimed at boosting the agriculture industry. Yeah, and I heard that Jeff Sessions was forced to resign, or I can't remember what the story is exactly, but Jeff Sessions is no longer the Attorney General. And with him out of the office of Attorney General, Trump no longer has anybody in his cabinet to be an outright crusader against marijuana, which I think it basically what hemp is. For my layman's knowledge of drugs, I hear generally speaking that hemp is like a milder version of marijuana. Somebody in the comments section correct me if I'm wrong in that, but that's what I hear hemp to generally be. And again, since Jeff Sessions is out, he's no longer in the way of Trump trying to, you know, throw a bone, I guess, at libertarians when it comes to drugs. Because I don't think that Trump is outright outspoken for drug legalization or decriminalization, at least, but he's rather apathetic towards it. Anyway, the fiber of hemp, a non-intoxicating derivative of the cannabis plant. Okay, so yeah, it is a milder version of marijuana, basically, because cannabis, I think, is also another name for marijuana, if I'm right, is used to make a variety of products, such as cardboard, carpets, clothes, paper, and more. Okay, I got a question. Are people allowed to consume it and smoke it? Hemp production and sales have historically been illegal under the same federal prohibition against marijuana. The Farm Bill only deals with industrial hemp and does not address recreational or medical marijuana. I retract my statement. All right, then. So it does not address the issue of recreational and medical marijuana, so it isn't much of a victory for libertarians on that front. My mistake. So this is just a milk toast, nothing burger almost. This article is. Hardly anything is getting done by the mere sound of it. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican in Kentucky, worked with Senators Rand Paul, Republican in Kentucky as well, Jeff Merkley, Democrat of Oregon, and Ron Wyden, Democrat of Oregon as well, to introduce a bill to legalize hemp, which was ultimately included in the Farm Bill. Okay, that's kind of surprising. That's kind of surprising that Mitch McConnell would be going out of his way to make a bill like this, or at least help in crafting a bill like this. Although Rand Paul and the two Democrats here, that's not surprising. I use my okay, this is McConnell's statement right here. I use my very own hemp pen to sign the conference report, clearing the way for the House and Senate to pass legislation and send it to the President's desk. I'm proud that the bill includes my provision to legalize the production of industrial hemp. It's a victory for farmers and consumers throughout our country, McConnell said when the Senate advanced the Farm Bill earlier this month. All right. The Farm Bill helps removes obstacles farmers face in growing hemp, including restricted access to banking, water rights, and crop insurance. Hemp is easier to grow than cotton, corn, or soybeans as it requires little water and can be viable in lower quality soil that is not practical for other crops. Okay, so maybe this isn't as much of a nothing burger. I mean, hemp is useful for making other products other than, you know, a blunt or pills or anything like that. It's useful, as it said earlier, for making carpet as well and clothes. And it's easier to grow. So with the legalization of hemp, I can imagine this being a mild boon to the economy. The hemp provision is just one of several aspects of the Farm Bill meant to aid farmers as exports of agricultural products such as soybeans take a hit as Trump engages in a bitter trade war with China and other countries. Which I say, Trump, stop the trade war. I'm a libertarian in that I am against tariffs. I mean, obviously there are a whole bunch of other Trumpists out there who are more supportive of tariffs because they're taking our gerbs. That's actually a comment that I heard Humane Mind and ANCAP making a comment in one stream. By the way, Humane Mind, my, how the mighty have fallen. The Humane Mind is a complicated story that I'm not going to get into. I'm just going to say right now that I don't approve of the guy overall. I'll just leave it at that. But there is a comment that he made in a live stream that he had with other people talking about tariffs and foreign trade in general. And he was debating against people who are like in large part, anti-free trade and are pro-tariff as well. and they were like pro-tariff all on the basis of jobs. And Humane Mind was like making a mockery of that by quoting that good old South Park line from the one hillbilly. They're taking our germs, which I thought was kind of funny. But anyway, that's all that I have to say for today. I have no co-hosts with me because both Loudmouth and S-Man left a long time ago, but, you know, that's okay. If I do these shows by myself, that's all right as well. I just want to, like, get the news out for my subscribers and everyone else. I'll probably do, like, a gaming stream on my secondary channel, that being DarkCon Entertainment, if anybody wants to see that. But other than that, that's all I have to say in the news. And as far as what Brandon says in the chat, saying subscribe to PewDiePie, I'm afraid I'm going to have to decline, Brandon, because I already have too many subscriptions in my subscription list, and I don't see the use in subscribing to PewDiePie. I mean, if he becomes no longer #1 on the subscriber charts here on YouTube, well, then I don't really care, honestly, to put it quite bluntly. Not that I have any problem against PewDiePie. It's just, yeah, I don't care if he gets bumped down to 2nd place or whatever. But anyway, that's all I have to say. Strike Force, well, okay, Strike Force is not going to be happening next Sunday because I have a business trip that'll take up both Saturday and Sunday. So I don't know, maybe I'll do one like a Monday after next weekend or something. I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But until then, I am the Dark Conservatarian. This has been Strike Force. See y'all later, and God bless.